What's happening, guys? Oh, Shlomi. Liza, what's happening? I'm just here trying to get back to this live streaming thing. I did a few, but then I stopped. No time. No time, no time. What's happening, guys? Mike, what's up, man? I'm looking at this screen because this is where I have the comment. It's weird. So this is the screen where I can see myself. This is the screen that's actually recording me, and then this is the screen where I read the comments. So it's kind of backwards. Hope you guys are doing well. Jim, what's up? Doctor approved. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just here hanging in the studio. Finally, I don't have a ton of work. I do have some work that I should be doing, but I'm taking a little break. Let's see. Georgia, what's up? Helen! You guys got to check out Helen. I mean, she doesn't need any more subscribers. She's got like over 100,000, but she's great. That's what happens when you do a lot of pop sessions. You start to get sloppy. That happens to me for sure. Oh man, music for unemployed listeners. Yeah, aren't we all unemployed? Oh man, Kinch is here. Broadcasting sound directly into YouTube. Sounds great. Oh man, I know this took me a while, so I can tell you guys how I did it. This is kind of a spaceship setup over here. So I wish I could move. The next thing I need to get is a different camera so you guys can actually see this part, because you guys are seeing the back. But I have I'm using this thing called Jack Pilot to route everything from my interface into OBS, and then OBS, as you can see. Oh, you guys can see this screen. This is my Axe Effects, and then this is my interface. So this is channel 1 is like my clean. Channel 2 is like the wet. Channel 3, these are stereo channels, so this is 1 and 2, this is 3 and 4, this is 5 and 6, and then 7 is my mic. So as you can see, this is on. Are we building presets? Oh man, what's up, dude? I'm not really building a preset, but I can build something if you guys want me to. I'm just playing. So this is actually, I have my signal split 2 ways. So this is actually my main tone. If I turn this down, this is the main tone. So it's just dry. So I gotta mute the mic so you can hear it, because you're hearing this right now. So this is without it. Right? And then when I turn up the wet, right? And then but yeah, that's it. I feel like a channel just came in. I don't know, something's up with my wet channel. I think it's the cables are being funky over there. Yeah, it's been, how you guys doing over there? It's been a little crazy here. I've been producing more than just doing sessions. So it pays more, but it's also so time consuming. I find myself working easily 10 to 12 hours on just like an arrangement, a production, and then not even finishing. Then I have to put the next amount of day, the next day I put the same amount of time, and that's for like one song. But then I have like 4 or 5 or 6 clients at the same time, so everybody wants their thing ASAP. So it's leaving me no time for anything else. And then I have a kid and a wife, so I have to put a floor gate on to get rid of the ambient string noise on the room mic. Oh yeah, I gotta do that. Actually, what I've been doing is I just mute this. So yeah, that's how I've been doing it. But yeah, I gotta figure out some kind of way to do it with a pedal. I've been wanting to do more videos, but it's just like it takes me so long to make a track and then find the time to shoot a video, and then in the meantime I have people blowing up my phone waiting for their tracks. So I think my day-to-day is seeing what's the least amount of people I can piss off today. But this I was doing this yesterday because I was gonna do the live stream yesterday, and then I got caught up. But this like stereo chorus thing with the mic open sounds pretty cool. Check this out. Very like 90s. At least on my end, it sounds cool. But I changed something about my preset, which is cool. Let me see if I can show you what I did. I have 4 expression pedals on the floor, so I've always been trying to figure out what to do with them. So number 1 is my volume, right? 2, I have it set to wah-wah. And then 3 is my delay oscillation. So then obviously this kind of goes hand in hand with the delay EQ, because if my EQ is pretty low, like if you can see over here, this is my delay EQ right up here on the screen. It's kind of like the little sad face because I don't want my delay to have low end, and then I also don't want it to step on everything that I'm playing, so cutting it does its thing, you know. Yeah, I've always felt like you know, delays and reverbs are such a thing, you know. It's like they can really set the tone, or they can make your tone sound like crap. So maybe we can talk about that today until somebody stops me here. But I'll show you what I try to aim for when I get. I've been wanting to do. I was telling Kinch about this. I think I've been wanting to do a video, like a series of videos on like reverbs and like when to use a spring reverb, when to use a chamber, when to use blade, rooms, halls, you know, what's the difference. So I find that that's a big thing for me, because they all sound different, and then they serve a different purpose, I think. Like spring reverb, you know, it's a really common one for guitar players. I have a couple of spring reverbs up there. You know, you wouldn't use a spring reverb for like ambience because the way it sounds, you know. But then for an ambience thing, maybe you don't want to use a room, because a room, unlike a hall, is kind of like portraying a room that may not be treated. And then it kind of, if you picture a room that's not treated, you have low end buildup in the corners. So if you try to pump up a room and just increase, say, the decay, then you're going to have a lot of that low end buildup unless you EQ it out. So maybe that wouldn't be the right one. But I find that plates and like halls sound cool for big ambient stuff. Do I ever duck my reverb? Yes, actually. But I don't feel the need to for this particular thing. In my live preset, I do. The delay and the reverb, I duck them. But on this I don't, because I'm recording 2 separate signals, and then I just actually, with a fader, I'll do it, you know. So I guess I kind of do the ducking. But the ducking is super important too, because say, let me show you what I would do. Here, first let me mute this. Okay, so say I have a delay, right? I'm gonna crank the delay. So as you can see, I just added brightness back to the delay, so you get this. Right, super bright delay. If I was gonna play something, and this is kind of like one of the things that you hear a lot of the beginner players do, or maybe not necessarily beginners, but guys that are just getting into delay, is they'll play something. And that might be a lot of delay for what you're trying to play, right? But then, if you lower that, say I lower the delay. You know, you get into this kind of middle point where it's like you either lower it too much and now you don't hear the delay, or it's still too hot and then it's in the way of your playing, you know. So then that's where ducking comes in handy, because it works kind of like a compressor, you know. It's kind of like in production, there's a thing that's called sidechain compression, where you use something as a source to compress something else, right? So in this scenario, I guess my dry signal would be the key in the sidechain compression, and then it'll decide how much my delay gets ducked, right? So if you see over here, attenuation is how many dBs do I want to decrease the delay. So say we wanted to decrease by 5 dBs, right? And then threshold is going to be like your, I guess like your intensity, like your sensitivity. So right, check that out there. Now if I lower the threshold the other way, right, let me mute the mic for a sec. Right? So as you can see, when I turn the threshold the other way, the delay is still there, but it's actually being ducked by 5 dB when I play, so that the main signal is heard. So let me show you what happens if I were to duck it, say, by 10 dB, or attenuate it. Right? And then release time means after the main signal is not compressing it or ducking it down, how long do you want it to hold, in the duct, I guess. So this would be like a fast release, right? 1 millisecond. This would be like a slow release. So at this point, it probably wouldn't come back up. But this would be like a fast unducking, I guess. You hear how all of a sudden I stop playing and it jumps up? Right? I feel like this is a good spot. 30 milliseconds is my favorite number for delays and reverbs. For pre-delays, I mean. Pre-delays and the reverbs, which I'll go over into also. So okay, so that's kind of a cool thing to do. That's what we were talking about when we mentioned the ducking, tone ducking of the reverb. But another way to do this, if I don't want to do this, right? Because then this, I fear that if I'm recording, what this is gonna do is that it's gonna start messing with the levels of my wet signal, and then maybe I don't want that. This is good for live because you kind of need it to be there in the moment. So what I actually do is that I just high cut the delay. So check this out. I'm not gonna lower the mix, right? This is where the delay is gonna stay at, which is a pretty loud delay, right? But if I bring this down, if I cut this down to like say 1K, check this out. So all of a sudden the delay is there. It's still kind of giving you that bed, but it's not so intrusive, right? So check this out. I'll play around with this for a bit. Notice that I haven't lowered the volume of the delay, right? I didn't lower the mix or the volume. All I did was, I mean, in essence, you could argue that I am killing some, loudness of it by lowering the brightness. But just hear how it sounds now, and then I'll toggle this back up and see the difference. Right, so you see, usually I don't go down this low. I'll usually keep it around 3K, and then I'll fluctuate between 3 and 2K if I want this kind of effect, But sometimes if you want like a YouTube kind of thing, you don't want to cut it that much. Let me read some of these comments. a long pre-delay on my next mortgage payment. Don't we all, right? I'm still waiting for this government help. Where is it, Mr. Trump? Greg, what's up, man? Greg makes some killer fractal sounds as well. We're talking about pre-delays and other stuff. Well, actually, we're not talking about pre-delays just yet. We're talking about tone ducking. So pre-delay. Let's talk about some pre-delays. Okay, so right now, this is kind of a useful thing in vocals also, but sometimes you want to hear the reverb. Okay, so we talked about ducking. We talked about high cutting. The next thing that I like to do, here's my 30 millisecond thing here too, is do I ever scoop mids in overdriven sounds? I'll get to that, actually. I'll tell you my yes and no. So, okay, just real quick about the pre-delay. Right, this is my plate. Mute the mic for a second. Right? So you get a good idea. Now, what happens if I set this to 0 is pre-delay on the reverb is kind of, think about it like if you're standing on a stage, right? Think of it like picture like an outdoor stage, right? And you hit a snare drum. Boom, right? The sound is going to travel forward towards the audience. But then now picture that you put a wall right in front of the stage, right? If you hit that snare, the sound is going to travel to that wall and then it's going to bounce back at you, right? So pre-delay is kind of like how long it takes the sound to travel from the stage to hit that wall and then to reverberate back at you, right? So pre-delay set to 0 is like you hit and then it immediately bounces back, right? And then moving the pre-delay up is kind of like you're moving that wall back, right? So you're hitting the first initial transient, and then however long, 120 milliseconds, whatever long it'll take for the reverb to start, right? So this kind of allows for the initial, like the first hit of that transient to ring before the reverb kicks in, right? So if I hit this like to 250 milliseconds, you're gonna hear that I'm gonna hit the transient, and then the reverb takes that long to start. Right? As opposed to now this is one thing that I always keep, like 30 to 150. I always mess around with those numbers, but it gives it a little bit of breath so it doesn't automatically choke your sound, So those are some cool tricks for like reverbing, anything, vocals, guitar, tone ducking, which is kind of like the side chain compression of an effect, EQing, and then pre-delay. So now the EQing thing, if you notice here, I'm back down to that 3K thing, and I also low cut things a lot, right? Because look, this is a really horrible thing for my ears. Say I crank this to say 20 second reverb, right? Right, there's a lot of, I'm low cutting stuff over here, but if I were to not low cut this, right? Let me do that again. You hear this low end? Check this out. I just cut some of it off. Depending on where you guys are listening, if you're listening on your phone, you might not be able to hear that, but I usually low cut all my reverbs and delays too, to around this much, because you don't want your effects to rumble in the low end, unless it was a maybe a part of the song where everything drops out and it's just like a big ambience guitar. Maybe then you'd want your effects to be kind of low and boomy. But even then, uh, anyway, let me see some of these comments. Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna get to the scooping the mids on overdriven sounds. Jesse, oh thanks, man. I hope you dig it. Yeah, the Helix sounds thin. What do I think? Man, thin is an interesting word because everything can sound thin. I'm not, I haven't had a lot of use with the Helix stuff, but I think, even a lot of the fractal presets can sound thin. And I'm gonna show you. This is a really funny example, but I'm gonna show you in a nutshell what happens here. This is kind of a big complaint with a lot of people that first get into the digital thing, is the thin. It sounds thin. And let me give you all right, so I switched over to a Friedman, right? Check out the Friedman. It sounds so thin, right? But then what if I do this? Everything sounds thin when it's soft. So that's a pretty common thing. If you're trying to play like a model of a 100-watt amp, but then you're playing it at a really low headphone volume, then is it really gonna sound like 100 watts? There is a crossover frequency, if you will, where bass kind of dies. At some point there's a certain dB, I don't know what it is, but a certain dB measure where bass just kind of blooms, and maybe you can't hear it through certain speakers or at a certain volume. But I'm not saying that that's the problem with the Helix, though. I'm just saying that that's one thing to keep in mind. Everything sounds better louder, Using headphones and can barely hear the roll off. Using an EQ for my effects. Okay, so check it out. Here's another thing. If your amps and speakers have certain cutoffs in the sound, I love this thing about the Fractal. It has a real-time analyzer. All right, so I'm gonna mute my wet signal right now, which is this, and I want you to see the frequency range that's happening on my. All right, let me mute the mic. It's compressing right now because I have the stressor going after this. Let me mute that. But if you notice, it kind of sticks around this area, right? Kind of like the 60 hertz to. And I feel like, especially in a mix, guitars have their place, and this kind of goes back to the question about, do I scoop the mids on my overdriven sound? So I feel like guitars kind of live in the mids, Now that's not to say that you got to boost the mids on everything, but for a lot of this, I'll go through some of my main sounds here. To me, I forgot to change this reverb back to whatever it was, 3 seconds or something. Yeah, guitars kind of live in the mids, Like I use this Neve plugin a lot, and this little notch right here at 1.6K, boosting this, man, this will. I do it on like almost every solo that I ever record. I boost this, because in a track, watch. I'm gonna boost it now, and let me turn on my. I'm gonna boost it now, and it'll kind of sound nasally, but if you hear it in the track, it just kind of sticks up. So I have this shelved a little bit bright. Let me put this back to the middle, and now let me crank this, and you'll hear kind of that. Right? If you play that kind of a sound in a track, it fits kind of right where a solo should be, I think. Dynamic range boost. Yeah. Are you talking about the real-time analyzer? Danny, you guys should check out Daniel Uribe's killer guitar player. Super buen guitarrista, bro. ¿Qué hiciste para que sonara con cuerpo? Subirle el volumen, sí, bro. Okay, so check it out. A few things to keep in mind, and this is why people love Neve preamps for guitar. It's like all the magic frequencies that you need. The body of the guitar, and if we go back to this, or actually, let's do this. I'm gonna add an EQ. That's my in-laws just got here with my kid, so he was probably gonna come in here in a second. All right, so check it out. 30 hertz, you don't need 30 hertz on guitar. 60 hertz in a busy track, you don't need 60 hertz, right? 60 hertz is kind of a. Let me see. There was a thing on the. I think it was maybe with the parametric EQ that you can solo frequencies. Yeah. See, here it is. All right. Say I go down to like 60 hertz, right? Hear how this sounds soloed. Let me mute this. Right? So you kind of have to think. First of all, when you're recording a track, you kind of have to get rid of the frequencies that each instrument doesn't need, so that everything can sit well together. You know, so you have to wonder what frequencies are important to what sound, right? So maybe if I'm going over to a sound like this. You know, a sound like that doesn't need any low frequencies, or doesn't need a lot of them anyway. It needs a lot of high frequencies though. So when I use this sound, I actually duck the mids and boost the highs to get this kind of thing. Right? And that kind of sits there with that EQ, right? Now this is the reason why I love these Neve EQs. It's like, this is, if you're not familiar with these, this is basically like a brightness, kind of like a shelf that's up in the. So this will make it really bright, and this will kind of cut the brightness to a certain extent. If you've seen, this is a Neve 1073. There's a 1084, right? Is another one, which kind of looks like this, but then gives you a little bit more freedom on what frequencies to cut here, and then also gives you more freedom on what to cut down here. So this is kind of like a high shelf. This is a low cut, right, or a high pass. And this is like your low mids, and then kind of like your high mids. So it's very mid-focused, right? I wouldn't call it a mid-focused EQ because it's pretty versatile, but it hits the right frequencies that you need to tweak on a guitar, I think. Daniel, what's up, dude? How are you showing screen recording the all right, so check it. I have I'm gonna bring in the OBS window. This is like Inception, a window within a window within a window. I can show you here like my right screen, right? If I bring this in, how do I do this? Let's see. I think if I turn it up here, there you go. Now you can see my right screen. If I bring in the left screen, right now there's nothing on it, but it would normally be this window. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing all of this with OBS, which the screen capture is easy on OBS, but then the audio routing is not easy. So that's why I'm using Jack Router for the audio routing. However, everything is a little bit delayed on the live stream. So when you guys are writing something and then when I'm answering it, it's probably like a 15-20 second delay. But anyway, back to this. So yeah, the mids are your friend with guitars. Now, the thing about sounding thin is you kind of, this area right here, I would say 110 to 220 is where the low body of your guitar is, right? So just because I can solo frequencies, I'm going to go over to this, right? Say 100 hertz, right? See how this. Right? That's kind of like the body of your guitar, right? 100. Now check out 200 hertz. This is more like the. Now, at this point, you're getting into the realm of what I consider to be important, kind of crucial to your guitar tone, right? 200 hertz. 100 hertz, I mean, in a real busy mix, you can cut up to 100 hertz. I mean, it also depends on the guitar tone, because some things you can even cut up. If you're doing like a skank thing, maybe you don't need 100. Maybe you don't even need 200 hertz, you know? What kind of camera are you using? Well, this camera right here is just the iMac webcam, but for my videos I use this thing. This is my Sony A5100, which is not a new camera at all. It's kind of outdated. It doesn't even do 4K. But anyway, so 200 hertz, I think it's a good number to remember. That's kind of like your body. So if you have a guitar tone where you feel like it's thin, this is maybe an area you want to boost, right? So I'm going to boost it right now on the Neve and hear what happens. Right, you hear that? That's a very bodily guitar, you know? Now, if you're listening to it by itself, it kind of feels like it should be boosted, you know? But a lot of times in the mix, you'll notice that it doesn't need to be boosted. A lot of times the bright guitar tones kind of fit well in a mix, you know? Yep, totally. PayPal for my mortgage. Yeah, totally. Me too. Andy Wood versus OBS. It was funny listening. Oh man, I haven't seen that. Andy Wood's a killer player, man. Yeah, OBS has his. I mean, it's free. You know, how much can you ask for from a free software? Okay, so one of the things that I have on here actually on my preset, I have a fat switch and a bright switch, which actually engages. It's actually these two right here on the amp block, the fat and the bright. But I engage them with the pedal instead of doing here, because a lot of times I'm recording and I don't want to have to open this, and so I'll show you what they do. First, I'll do the bright switch. Right, so you hear the brightness there, and now let me show you what the fat switch does. Right? All the fat, low, mid kind of thing. that works well for guitars. And then I have 4 different amp sounds. These are like my where did I close the fractal thing? Let's see. This is the Dumble, which is very like MIDI, not MIDI, but MIDI, mid-rangey. Yeah, so the Dumble, right? And then also the cab is a huge thing. I mean, think of a cab. A speaker is kind of like an additional EQ shelf that you're gonna put at the end of your guitar tone. So a lot of times I feel like two different clean amps through the same cab sound more similar than the same amp through 2 different speakers, right? Does that make sense? I'll say that again. So 2 different clean amps, right? 2 different clean amps through the same speaker sound more similar than the same amp through 2 different speakers, all right? So the speaker is a huge part of your sound. A lot of times if you don't like the way an amp sounds, you have to wonder if it's a speaker. It's like an EQ shelf. So so I have them assigned, right? Like my Dumble goes with this one. If I go over to my deluxe reverb, you're gonna see how it changes. This is my deluxe reverb. Let me mute the mic. Right, and then that I can turn on the bright switch and it'll be like the vibrato channel on a Fender amp. Right? And then the fat switch, I mean, I wouldn't use that on the Fender amp. Then I'm going to go to the Morgan. And this I kind of default it with the bright switch on. And then it does this thing. Right? This is my Voxy sound. Right, total voxiness. That's my my thing there. And then I have a different. This is my single coil. If I push it down, it does the humbucker thing. So it sounds like this. I like that sound. All right. And then of course the last one was my Friedman, which you heard already. I'll show you that. If I add fat to that, I gotta work on my YouTube chops. It fucking sucks. But a lot of times Marshalls are super bright, and we think that the power chord sound is this thick, full of body thing, and if you hear Van Halen, I mean, it's like super bright and bitey, Watching you play the last few years, that's really pushed me. Oh man, thanks so much. I feel like I listened to videos from like 2 years ago and I'm like, man, I'm still playing the same fucking licks. At least I've been learning about production. and then I don't have to be depressed that I haven't learned anything new guitar wise. But yeah, guitar is a whole thing, you know. It's I mean, which route you want to go, the Joe Pass route and learn all these cool things, but then always have the same sound, or you know, everything has its own thing. It's like the Edge. Musically, it's easier to play like the Edge than it is to, like you know, whoever, Lenny Bro. But then it's like, then the theories and the pedals and all that stuff, it's a whole different thing, you know. That's why I always come down on people that say John Mayer sucks. It's like, man, play like John Mayer, and then you can say he sucks, you know. How's Yogi? Oh man, Yogi's my pit bull. Kinch loves Yogi. Yogi is so happy today, man, because I went to the store and got him canned dog meat and treats. He's been protesting because I've been feeding him regular dog food and he hates it, so he'll just leave it there. A little bastard. One thing I forgot to mention is the delay oscillation thing that I was talking about. And this is my third expression pedal, right? So my fourth expression pedal, it's just like it's over here. It's like the master for the wet. Right? And then the delay oscillation, I mean, it's just like I have it set to be the feedback of the delay, but I have it pretty high. So in the low position, it's here. So, I mean, that's already pretty cranking. And then I'll show you what happens when I turn it all the way up. So that works really cool on sessions, you know. And then I noticed also one of the things is if I high cut the delay a lot, say like here, that even if I crank the oscillation, it doesn't. Right now it's cranked all the way up. See, it'll keep repeating, but it's not very crazy. But then if I turn this up, I mean, it gets pretty insane. So this is the real oscillation thing. See, it runs into itself forever. Now, obviously, this works really cool if I have like a tape delay, right? Which I don't think I have one on here. Let me see. Or maybe this vintage digital. Well, that's a digital delay, but let's set it to tape, right? Let's say like a mono tape delay. I don't know if I have to. Yeah, it's already there. So master feedback. Check it. Turn this up. What am I? Oh, here we go. This has to be at 100. And this. There we go. I love it. You see that saturation? That's what they call like the tape saturation. So cool. That does cool things in a song, you know. Maybe in like a bridge or something, or in a breakdown, like that ringing in the back with reverb. Cool little effects for session. Joe Pass in 1973. Oh man, that must have been amazing. I love Joe Pass. I was a big, you know, I went to school for jazz. Kinch, who's here in the chat, if you check him out, Streetwise Guitar, he taught at the University of Miami for some time. That's where Pat Metheny and Andy Timmons and who else? Jonathan Kreisberg, Jaco Pastorius, all of them went to that university. Kinch used to teach there. Now I feel like I should play something jazzy. What was what was it? What was something that Joe Pass would play? Yeah, I need to practice my jazz chops. Too much reverb and too much delay. Now it gets sloppy when I have to play clean. Teddy Castellucci. Funny Valentine. Oh yeah. Let's see. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna butcher this, but if I butcher it on YouTube, then it'll be a good motivation to practice. Let's see what happens. I don't even know if I know that tune. Let me try to get through it. Whatever. That's not a tune I know. So that's the best you're gonna get from me today for that tune. Oh man, thanks. Maybe I should swap guitars just for fun. Oh, check! I did something cool. Check this out. Oh, I still got to change these to 9s now, but my SG forever will tune down to D. Will be tuned down to D now. So not drop D, but actually full D tuning. It sounds so cool. This is a great jazz guitar, actually. SG. What jazz guitar player plays an SG? Can't think of one. I'm sure there's a bunch. That's funny. It actually sounds funny. It's probably a whole step down. Stella by tune down. Stella by D minor. Anyway, let's see what this guitar sounds like rocking out. Let me go to the Morgan. This Morgan, it's like an AC30 type of amp, but it sounds cool. Check this out. That's the funny thing about down tuning. It's like the bends all of a sudden. You miss all of them. So this might be a guitar that I do some cut some mids. Actually, it could also be the pickup position, the height. I gotta mess with this. That's another thing. These guitars get out of tune a lot. How's the connection anyway? I think the last time that I did a live stream, it was choppy, and I ended up getting one of those Wi-Fi extender things, and I plugged it in the kitchen, which is outside of the studio. Oh yeah, John McLaughlin, man. John McLaughlin. I've been digging the videos he's been doing lately. Have you seen him on social media? Pretty cool stuff. Maybe this is the only way you can play like another Break on the Wall without changing to like nines or something. See, this thing keeps getting out of tune though. Does anybody know what gauge he was using on that recording? Probably like nines or something, right? Or maybe he tuned down and played it in like E. That's awesome. So underrated. Well, actually, he's not underrated. He gets the credit he deserves. But his bends maybe are underrated. Cool stuff. Yeah, I gotta lower the... This is a guitar where I would put lighter strings because of the way the lower strings sound, you know? Well, let me see what happens if I turn on the bright switch. My drive sound. This would be like my lead. Cool. Let's try something else. It's funny how different a Les Paul sounds. You would think that a smaller block of wood like an SG would have less mids than a chunky Les Paul, but not the case. I mean, could be the pickups too on the bridge. This one probably sounds cool with the... So that was with the brightness, with the boost, and with a drive pedal on. This is just with the fat switch. Anyway, how's it looking there, guys? Let's see. I'm excited. I have another guitar that's almost done. These Gibsons, man. It might be the nut, right? A lot of people complain about the tuners, but sometimes it's just the nut. Alright, let's see if I can pull off a standard. Something like that. Maybe not the best guitar to play it on, but yeah, you gotta play sometimes with a clean sound. I think I play a lot with compression and drive, and then when I try to play with a clean sound, I get sloppy. We all got a shed, right? But anyway, guys, I'm getting hungry. I haven't had lunch yet. That's a good chord. I love this chord. Major 7 augmented. wish I was Tom Quayle with his cool. With his cool legato. Anyway, dudes, I'm gonna grab some food. Thanks for sticking around. I'll try to get to a video soon. I'm thinking of doing probably the reverb thing that I was talking about. And I think last time I mentioned I wanted to do a video with my Indigo amp, so that's one thing also for sure. But anyway, thanks for sticking around, guys. Hope you guys have a cool week. I guess it's Monday now. Wow. I never know what day it is. I have to look at my phone and my computer. Alright, dudes. Thanks for hanging. Make sure to subscribe or whatever. I think everybody that sees these live streams is already subscribed, so thanks for subscribing, guys. Thanks also to everybody that's been donating. I've been getting some donations for the FM3 preset, so I dig that. Thank you. I'll make some more. I've been wanting to make some Plexi and revisit some of my very first XFX3 presets, which are still up, but I haven't touched them since like the beginning of the XFX3. So I'll tweak some of those and I'll be in touch. All right, dudes. Thanks for hanging.